Hello everyone and welcome to a wonderful new episode from the StudioMEcast, and today I have a very exciting guest for us. Her name is Crowley-Duncan, and you may know her if you've been on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. She has over 810,000 followers on TikTok, over 176 on Instagram, 42,000 subscribers on YouTube, and on Facebook, 19,000, which I did in reverse order, but whatever, still very impressive. She's a very well accoladed bagpiper. She does music on these platforms. You may have seen she's done duets with our old friend of the show, Megan Shoffrey, and today she's talking with us about her brand, her bagpiping, her online experience, and we're just hoping to get through a lot of really cool topics today. And also, on a personal note, she's a good old friend of mine. So, Allie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello. It's so exciting to be here to chat with you. We've known each other for 10 years, so any excuse. Yeah, I met you 10 years ago when I visited Edinburgh for the first time.
Well, on more recent news, you actually had a post not too long ago that was shared by Metallica, right? One of your videos.
Yeah.
So if you don't know who Crowley-Duncan is, well, Metallica does, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So rock on with that. So you started, I guess the journey for all this, correct me if I'm wrong, if you think there's a more interesting origin story here, then you were a bagpiper, and then before TikTok was invented, right? And then you made the move to be on social media, but that's not all. You also do gigs. You're a part of a lot of different subcultures like veterans associations. You're well seen around a lot of Renaissance festivals. You play with a lot of different bands, I believe that's correct. And you even have somewhat of a fan base where the shirt you're wearing today was some fan art done by a mutual fan of yours and Megan Shoffrey once again. I guess we'll get to if you have merch somewhere later, but after we convince everybody that you're awesome. But tell me what made you decide to get on to TikTok? How long have you when did you start? What made you get on there? And just tell me a little bit of the process of figuring it out, making it work for you, how long it kind of took. Just tell us a story.
I got on TikTok like a lot of people in the midst of the pandemic. I worked a retail job, had been furloughed, and was just teaching lessons and trying to practice more and play music and keep my brain engaged while I was kind of home in lockdown. And I actually started on TikTok doing vocal duets with creators. Literally just for fun. I had no intention of growing a platform. This was just a cool feature on the app where you got to duet people. So that's how I started on TikTok. And then I brought out the bagpipes one day, just holding them for a trend that was happening. And I just it was literally just me standing there, and I said bagpipes on the screen. That was the whole trend. And people in the comments were asking, oh, do you play those? I might want to hear that. And I had never seen bagpipes on the app before. There were some creators kind of playing, but they had never reached my For You page. So I really didn't think much of it. I didn't think they would, be received well on the app that I thought was for teenagers. So I played them on TikTok, and the video did pretty well. It has, I think now, just under 150,000 views, which for me, posting to 20 people was an insane amount. And then thousands of followers started to pile in like crazy, and people were requesting tunes and things like that. And so I just decided to keep playing for people, and that has grown into what it is now. So it started out with a little bit of luck with that first video kind of appealing to people, and then I just started to build a community around it. A lot of it is really due in part to the fact that I was, responding to actual people's requests and starting to build a platform that relies on the basis of engagement between me and my followers.
So you've got a really big following on TikTok. Whenever you make a video, do you post it to all of the different platforms?
kind of. I feel like TikTok and Instagram are pretty in sync with each other. I kind of have my own, I guess, like personality for each platform at this point. Not that it's all like manufactured, but I tend to keep YouTube mostly playing videos, so my personality doesn't really come out on there a ton. On Instagram is where I have the most me because of the story features and posting images and being able to chat with people. And then TikTok is, I guess, like a polished version of me. It's all of my life updates, playing videos, the Ren Fair side of stuff. So that's kind of the center of my social media universe. And then on Facebook, I actually post mostly text updates to try and communicate with a slightly more manageable number of people compared to the other platforms.
So going into this conversation, as we established, we've known each other for a long time, but I have to remind myself that anyone who's listening to this might not be as familiar with a lot of the same things as we are. So to clarify for anyone who's might have some pretty obvious questions at this point, Allie plays the great Highland bagpipe, probably the one you're most familiar with when you hear...
You're picturing in your brain, yes.
Right. And we were both, have been involved with Scottish Highland American culture for a long time. Me, my whole life, for sure. I think one of the earliest pictures I have of me is in a kilt. And it's... but how long have you been playing the pipes? Let's go there with that.
I have been playing the pipes for 12 years.
And how did you get started?
I got started because I was raised on Celtic heritage. My mom's side of the family is Irish, and that's where Crowley comes from. So I was raised listening to Celtic music, and I always had a deep appreciation for it, and I was singing it for a long time. But then when I was 12 years old, my stepdad legally adopted me, giving me the Duncan part of my name, and his family is Scottish American. And my grandmother, his mom, started teaching me about kind of the intricacies of Scottish culture versus Irish, and, teaching me about the tartan, the family crest, and some of the lineage, and I thought that was so cool, and it introduced me to Scottish music as its own separate entity, and I wanted to connect a bit deeper with that, and so I started looking into what kind of Scottish musical instruments I could play, and bagpipes found their way to me. They were not my first instrument. I play a lot, but it was a way for me to kind of break out of the conventional track that I was on, going from clarinet to saxophone and saxophone to flute and flute to bagpipes, the natural progression. So it was a way for me to connect more with my adopted heritage and also break the mold of contemporary, because that's not who I am.
Now, with that, you've also managed to do an excellent job combining the heritage with the contemporary. With a lot of the content that you create, you'll do contemporary music on the pipes, which is very well received. And I'm a very traditional type of person with all kinds of things, with especially pipes and all that. But I also kind of wish that people would do covers more, which is one reason why I like your content. So did it surprise you that when people because bagpipes are, I feel, pretty universally well liked, I think that's my experience, but as it would be. But were you surprised that that bagpipes fit so well into the format for musical content on TikTok, or did it just make sense when it happened? How'd that go?
Oh, it made no sense. I really, the kind of people I was following, even other musical creators, I really didn't at first understand what role they would have on social media, because the world that you and I come from, piping, is very, it's regimented and traditional, and you have the regalia, you have the whole outfit put together properly, the uniform, and pibroch. Like I've never played a pibroch on TikTok because the app can't sustain it.
Yeah, that's true.
So like there are components of bagpiping culture that I kind of had in my head, like bagpipes are this box of things. And TikTok kind of helped me break that mold a little bit and kind of turn it into something that fit me a bit more musically. Um, but it's been just a process over time to kind of get them where they are right now on the app. And I didn't foresee that happening. I mean, every day when my account breaks a new milestone, it shocks me. Like I'm very grateful for what I've been able to grow, but it never occurred to me that I would have over 800,000 people wanting to hear more of what I'm doing with the instrument. Like it wasn't something that it was not premeditated.
When you mentioned like, oh yeah, during lockdown, that's when you start to do it. I'm remembering this more now, seeing that and seeing your progression with it and thinking like, oh, okay, cool. This could do something. But as we've been saying, like you've been established in the bagpiping world for long before that and continue to be. A lot of the people who come to Studio Me want to create and promote online content, whether it's because like that for the sake of itself or because they have something else going on and they want to get the word out about what they do. Some people will post clips of the podcasts that they record here or bits of the music videos that they create or any other type of media content that we do in the studio. Do you think that there's a do you ever find that your social media presence takes any time away from what I guess we'll call like your real world opportunity as far as like going out and doing a gig or a performance or performing with a band? Like from the outside looking in, it looks like you're all over the place to me, doing all kinds of stuff, and you're teaching and you teach. So, do like it's how do you have like a schedule? I guess what I'm asking is like how do you keep up with all this stuff and make TikTok and all your other platforms happen, and how helpful has it been to like the rest of whatever you're doing is? It's a big amorphous question, but I can't wait to see what you do with it.
Yeah, okay. We could go any which way with this. I at first, at the beginning of the pandemic, when my platform was starting to grow into, I guess, more of the brand that it has become, it definitely was a lot more putting in than getting back. There were fewer opportunities that came out of it and just more, I guess, fulfillment musically that came out of it. But I mean, it's very much this year kind of clicking how huge the network is. I've been able to meet so many people who I met online and grow real life opportunities from TikTok duets. Most notably, last week I went on tour with TikTokers. We went on tour, like we did it. We put together a song together. Well, I said together a lot, but together we made a cover of The Drunken Sailor, so like a super old shanty, and it has millions and millions of streams on like iTunes and Spotify. I'm pretty sure the video on YouTube, the music video we put together virtually that I recorded right here, my part, has over 4 million views on the main singer's account. I mean, we've all like done so well because of The Drunken Sailor, and that song brought us together on tour in New York City and Boston, and that was real life. Like I stayed in a TikToker's house, and I got to meet people who I've seen online and never in real life. Like we've never actually communicated face to face, and there we were jamming backstage. We basically had like sessions in our backstage area because we're all so obsessed with music. We were not quiet ever during this tour. we were singing in the vans while we were like driving from one location to the next, and it was an opportunity that grew out of TikTok, which was incredible. I mean, I I could go on about that forever.
Well, that sounds like, so how many, like, do you have any idea how many of the people who came to see your tour, like, knew you through TikTok? Like, I imagine you met a bunch of fans through that. Like, were there people who, like, tell us a bit about that experience. What was it like just doing the shows and everything?
Well, we started, so this was all under the singer Melinda, she has well over 2 million followers on TikTok. And she's been a content creator for 8 years. I used to watch her content just before I even thought social media would be part of my life. So she's put in a lot of work. And she started her first tour, the Folks I Love tour, at city wineries in multiple cities around the Northeast. And they sold out within the first week.
Whoa.
Like the whole show just sold out within the first week, and she added 2 more dates that also sold out. So it's, I think, kind of shocking to all of us. You know, we had this thing in our head like, okay, you'll have 300 seats here, 150 here, you'll have 200 here, and then for it to just like immediately sell out. Like, people are craving this ever since the pandemic hit, and they've started to follow these musicians online. Like, they're craving it. People drove hours to go see the shows, and they knew all of us. There were 4 main TikTokers, and then we had a guest, like a 5th TikToker at the Boston show, and people like erupted. I was hearing when people were announced on stage just erupting in like, oh my gosh, because one of the singers was a surprise. And like, yeah, they knew who we were. We weren't able to do meet and greets because COVID still, indoor events, things like that. But people were, reaching out to us on social media and tagging us and things. They're like, I was so excited to hear that you were going. I had to get my tickets right away. So yeah, it's very surreal, very mind-blowing.
That, I had no idea about all of that. That is awesome. That sounds like
a surprise.
Wow, that is
yeah,
that's so
that's
rad.
Just the most recent. That was last week.
Well, congrats on selling out a tour in a week. Jeez, that's awesome.
Yeah,
wow.
It was such an amazing experience to be able to join along so many incredible musicians who I've looked up to on the app. Another musician who I'm starting to work with pretty closely is Mia Asano. She's a violinist. I don't know if you've seen any of our stuff together.
I've seen a couple of your duets. Yeah, very nice. Yes.
She does electric violin as well, and we're starting to collaborate a little bit more, and that's very cool. I'm actually going to drive down to where she lives in a couple weeks to make more long-form content, and that's just another, like, I just saw her videos on my For You page.
So,
and now we're
have you like started to plan another tour at this point? Like, what's like that in itself is like a huge, cool victory in itself. But like, I imagine that this is already leading to more things.
Right. I don't know. It's all so crazy. I have the band that I play festivals with, Kudu. I am actually driving to Baltimore today to go perform with them at a fairy festival. And then we're going to do Renaissance festivals. We're booked all the way through August, every weekend from now until then. And then we do Florida shows during the winter. So this year I'm like packed solid with performances to do, like real life performances where I get to meet people, and fans do come just to see me, which is so heartwarming. But I really want to start planning out my own solo tour. Not just me, like I'd like to bring in other musicians as well, but like the Alley tour.
Absolutely.
Which has been a goal for a very long time, but the amount of work that goes into that, like that has to be really well coordinated and really well planned out. So that's kind of what's on my mind right now, starting to figure out where I would go, because the one
Come to Pittsburgh, please come to Pittsburgh.
The crazy thing about social media too is that my audience is so widespread. They're everywhere, because the app is a great promotional tool that will get your content out to anybody who it might pique their interest. So I've got, people from way, like 50% of my following is the United States, which means 50% of my following is not the United States. So that's like 500,000 people who are not in the US.
Wow.
And so I need to make sure I consider them as well, because they're the people who made all of this possible too. So it's a little bit more complicated than I had initially planned in my brain.
That's a great problem to have, as I like to say. It's like, oh man, so many of my fans are all over the world.
I literally, yeah, it's a good problem to have.
It's such a drag. Okay, do you remember, was there a first time that someone you didn't know recognized you from TikTok and oh, you're the person from that? Did you have is there a first time for that, or is it just kind of what was that like?
I've got a first time and a favorite time.
Okay.
The first time was actually the first time that I performed live after during the pandemic. I performed at the Pennsylvania Renaissance Festival in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It was the very first show that I ever did with Kudu. And I was just I only came for one day, and one of the cast members clocked me immediately. And I didn't have as much of a platform as I do now. I want to say I had about 150 to 200,000 followers on TikTok, which of course is still substantial, but I just I wasn't expecting it. So I walked into the festival and I hadn't played yet. I didn't even have my instrument out. And she was like, I know you. I know you. I was like, you know me? How do you know me? So that was very surreal. And I was very shy about it. Oh, hi, it's good to meet you. So I don't know you. I'm sorry. So I was very, I guess, taken aback by it, because I wasn't anticipating it. But then over the course of doing more shows at Renaissance festivals, I started to realize that those were my people. I'd never done Renaissance festivals before starting with Kudu, so I am grateful for the opportunity to meet my people, because they find me there at all of the shows. Sometimes people will go to them because I've advertised that I'm going to be there. Other times people are already there at the show and they're like, oh my God, I know you. I know you. So it's, I guess a lot of people find me at these Renaissance festivals, and I love it every single time. But my favorite time being recognized in public, I was getting ready to fly to a Renaissance festival in Florida, and I was in hoodie, face mask, glasses, backpack, suitcase, 5 a.m. at the airport. And some lovely soul walked up to me and she said, I just want you to know that I love your content. She had no hesitation. She didn't ask me who I was. She knew who I was in my goblin form. And I was like, thank you. Thank you so much. I was so impressed at her ability to find me, because I had this much of my face showing. And I guess she could see a little bit of the red poking out, and that was enough to confirm it for her.
You weren't carrying your bagpipe at the same time or anything telling that?
When I travel, I don't even bring my bagpipe case with me. I put them in my carry-on case, my travel suitcase style one.
Right, of course.
So there was nothing identifiable about me. And it gets funnier. So she was very sweet. She was like, I'm sorry to get you this early, but I just wanted you to know I really love your content. And she had found me through Instagram, is where she was from. And it totally made my day. But then I was getting on the airplane and we were sitting very close to each other. So I walked past her and I heard her talking to her friend. She's like, oh yeah, that's the girl that I totally freaked out 20 minutes ago by recognizing her in the airport. And then I was like, oh, it's fine. It's fine. I was just so impressed. And I was putting my suitcase up in the overhead container, and somebody else, a couple people back, poked her head out. She was like, "Yeah, we all know who you are." And I was like, they were not from the same friend group. Like, this was another person with another group of people. So I had like two groups of people on this airplane who like followed my content. And I was just like, okay, that's so crazy. It was very, 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 very surreal. My 5 in the morning brain was not prepared to.
Oh, that's awesome. So like, I know countless pipers, right?
Right.
But I don't know a lot that are that active online. You know, like a few of them have a website. You know what I mean? And like, do you think that this is like, has your success with this like maybe gotten any other pipers to like start thinking about doing this kind of thing? Have any of them talked to you about that, or like anything like, hey, how did you get into doing this? Has that like generated any discussion from any of that?
Last night at I still teach for the youth band that I started with. And last night I walked into the room where I teach, and one of the kids was leaving that room because he had just had a lesson in there. And I saw him writing on the whiteboard in the room. And as soon as I came in with my students, he capped the marker and left. And then I looked at the whiteboard, and it was TikTok ideas. And his TikTok ideas included, like, I was so proud, like, in this moment, educational stuff. There was some kind of like trend comedy stuff, but a lot of it was like how to start learning, like how to get this, how to get that, how to clean this, and how to read this music. And I was just like so impressed. I remember when I first started posting on social media, the kids in the band were the first people I was like, oh no, they're gonna find me. And they all know who I am, but we never talk about it. It's just, they all know, but we don't talk about it. But it's like, it's weird when your teacher goes viral, so.
At least it's for a good reason this time. So.
Yeah, for sure. And then I've also had other people reaching out, asking for tips on how to record, like recording equipment, because that's a huge part of it that I don't think people realize is I'm not just posting a bagpipe that I record on my phone anymore.
There's the workstation.
I've got a whole little recording studio set up in here, so that I'm able to record with modern music, and I'm mixing bagpipes and recording them in a pseudo-professional setting now, and that's partially like just better video and audio quality is partially why my platform has been able to grow so much over the past couple of months. Is just kind of increasing that quality. So I've had a lot of people reaching out and asking questions about that, and I've noticed more people posting bagpipes on the app. I don't know if that's because like they've always been there and I'm finding them now on my For You page, or if it's, partially like, oh, she's doing it, I guess I'll post. I suspect it's probably a little bit of both based on the messages that I get about, oh, you've inspired me to dust off my pipes. And that is the best kind of message. So yeah, I suspect it's a little bit of both, but it is just generally good to see, because obviously my playing isn't the most traditional anymore on social media. So it's good to see other people showing their own versions of how they play the pipes too. Makes it less two-dimensional when people are just watching one type of musician.
This is kind of a frontier, kind of like it's scrappy, and you've like been able to figure this out, and you've become successful with it, and you continue to grow your base, and and you're not getting complacent with it either. Like you just showed us, like you're always trying to make things better with it, like just up the production quality as well. For your methods, how often do you post on a very regular basis? Do you do do you record several things at once? How do you handle your schedule?
that's actually my current struggle. Not struggle, it's in progress of trying to create a really regimented schedule. I used to just like post as I created. So I would be creating new content 7 days a week because I post every single day. So that would be, I would get up in the morning, record my video, mix it, put them together, like sync them up, and post it. And then the next day, I would do the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. Sometimes it would be, a little bit easier, like I would just record a video straight in the app, but it was a lot of work. And actually being able to connect with other content creators has helped me make life a little bit easier for myself. So now I try to record all of my playing videos in one day, and then I have the rest of the week to kind of like edit them together and get it all settled. And so I'm posting playing videos 3 to 4 times a week. And then the other 3 to 4 times a week, it's other content that I can put in there, like the transition videos. Like I posted one yesterday where I had to get ready for this fairy festival. So I was like, what should I wear to go perform at a fairy festival? Because I've never done that before. And other like educational videos, historical videos, like I sprinkle those in throughout. So it's 50% playing video, 50% this is what my life is like.
Do you, if not, like, do you ever find that you've lost any followers after any particular thing? Like if they're, like, I don't know if this has happened, but if there was a time that you didn't post regularly for a bit, like was there any type of fall off from there? Is there anything like that that's happened?
Yeah, so now we get into the nitty gritty of TikTok and the app. TikTok and I have a very confusing relationship, but I feel like we understand each other now. If I personally don't post every day or at least every weekday, I notice that the next time I post, it takes me a little bit longer to kind of catch up to the rate of engagement that I had before. So it's not followers that will leave. It's just that the algorithm won't bring my content to my followers as quickly. So if I'm posting regularly and I'm maintaining a certain level and quality of content, then my video at a pretty steady rate will reach a certain percentage of my followers. If I'm like kind of taking breaks or posting content that maybe isn't as high quality because I don't have the time to manage it, then it kind of like cuts back a little bit and you have to kind of work your way back up into a good relationship with the algorithm to make sure that all of your followers are seeing your content. And then after a little while of doing that, one will go viral. And that's good because then it brings people back who maybe haven't seen your content in a little while, and then they get to catch up on everything. So
right,
it's all about consistency.
Right, because those older videos that maybe didn't do as well before are still there, and they can still accrue more views, which is also one of the nice things about YouTube is you could be posting stuff for a long time and have hours and hours of content, right, and maybe people don't see it for the first 20 hours or so of whatever you've put up there. But then when you get a new subscriber who really likes what you're doing, they'll go back and just watch all the rest of them. And before
that's how I consume. Yeah, as a consumer, that's what I do is I find somebody I like, and then I will click on their profile and like watch all their videos and find the ones that I like. And I mean that's what I do all the time. So I imagine there are a lot of people like me out there who do the same thing. And the algorithm also supports those older videos. So when I have a video go viral, maybe it'll get 1 million views overnight, and then it'll kind of slow down and get another 1 million over the course of the next week. And then it'll kind of stop. But then a couple weeks later, when the algorithm sees that I haven't stopped posting and I've still been, pushing content out into the app, they're like, okay, here's 2.5 million more views. And so my video can go viral multiple times, if that kind of makes sense.
Absolutely. I've I've had like, I have my own personal TikTok thing. I'm not like active with it at the moment, but there was one thing I posted that was just, I noticed this thing in a Star Wars movie or something, and that kind of went crazy for a bit, and then I had like a similar experience, with just kind of trying to figure out like why is this doing well now and then not later, and then so that's, and I hear that kind of thing a lot from TikTok, where it's like you said, it's a confusing relationship with the app, but you can get to understand it eventually.
Yes.
So when you so you talked about how you got into piping through like your inherited heritage, and it's been something that you're clearly like just still super passionate about. Is like, what's your favorite type of music to do? Is it pibroch? Is it jigs or marches? Like, what's your and so hang on, double question. Favorite type of music and favorite type of like performance. Like, do you prefer TikTok, or like is it funerals or weddings or concerts? Like, what's your, like, when you're playing pipes, what's your favorite setting for that?
Gotcha. So, I think my favorite type of traditional piping is 6/8 marches. I don't know why, but I've always loved them. I like jigs as well, but 6/8 marches feel very elegant to me. So I love 6/8 marches. I'm a nerd. And my favorite type of bagpiping to do, though, is improv, which definitely comes from my jazz background. I love improv. That's actually all of my videos. They are improv over modern music. That's how I make them, how I make the bagpipe part to songs. Sometimes I'm playing the melody, but a lot of times I'm doing improv over a guitar solo and things like that. So that's my favorite because it really like tickles my creative brain.
And we have a surprise guest star with us today. So, Allie, while you're over there closing the door, look at all of those. You have enough to melt down and make a Lancaster bomber. Oh, they're back. All right, well, introduce them. What are their names now?
All right, so, funny enough, this is Lancaster.
No way, really?
Yeah. And then this one over here is Faye. Hi, Cass and Faye. Yeah, so Lancaster is a family name. It was my grandfather's mother's maiden name, and then actually my grandfather and all of his siblings, their middle name. And so he passed away about a year before I got the puppies, and so I named this one Lancaster. And we call him Cass for short. Look, it's you, buddy! Look, it's you! Oh, they look just alike, don't they?
And this is my Lancaster, World War II Royal Air Force that I have on my desk here at the studio. And so, yeah, it looks just like him.
Just like him. Is he trying to take over? Honey! Oh, so Cass will do the interview.
All right. So, Cass, I wanted to talk to you about your wartime experience over Berlin.
Come on.
He's a hero. All right.
I probably have enough to, he's a hero, did you say?
Yes.
That's funny.
Come to Studio Me, and you as well can take a look at this thing. So, it's had it since I was a small child, and every once in a while I think I switch it out with, I have a B-17 as well. Who am I kidding? I have like 100 different whatever. All right, so it's,
well, that was a good introduction.
I'll just stay there for the rest of the show. Always liked that one.
And Faye is actually named after Faye Henderson, who was the first woman and also the youngest person to ever win the gold medal with piping.
Oh, fantastic.
And I actually got to be on a podcast with her last year for International Women's Day. And I absolutely told her that I named a dog after her. Very embarrassing.
And how did she feel about that?
She's like, oh. She's very nice. She's very nice. We've chatted since, but yeah, I totally fangirled. So
that's awesome. Yeah. Well, that answers just another question that I would normally have, which is like, who are some of your heroes and people that you look up to who have inspired you? Like, because you've gone on to do like things that, you know, not a lot of people in your field have done. But who are the people who have preceded you, who you've looked up to? So there's her. Are there any other big names that stand out?
I mean, again, like, they're big names to me and perhaps even you, but unfortunately, like, I don't know.
Hey, don't downplay them. Everybody knows something no one else does. You know, it's. I mean, if there's anyone that you're comfortable giving a shout out or whatever too, like,
oh, of
it's
course.
totally fine.
Well, there are pipers and then non-piper musicians who kind of all do it. So, okay, for bagpipers, anyone who's ever been an instructor of mine, I've taken so much from. So that includes your father, Patrick Regan, who has been an inspiration to me for educational sides of things. So he inspired a lot of my digging into bagpipe theory, actually, and also, of course, bagpipe history, but theory is my niche. My first instructor, Maureen Connor, who I still work with her. She taught the youth band I was a part of. She started when she was about the age I am right now, and went on to be a professional bagpiper, very highly acclaimed in the area. And she is the leader of a 2-time world champion bagpipe band. So, I mean, she's inspirational to me in so many ways. Nancy Tunnicliffe was the first person to play bagpipes in an orchestral setting, and a woman. And so I got to interview her once, and she's a former judge of mine, so we've chatted. She's super sweet. And then for like my non-piping musicians, actually a lot of the people who I work with are also inspirations of mine. So Megan Shoffrey, she's inspirational to me in a lot of ways, like her energy and her ability to kind of like keep a lightness to her social media. We also talk a lot about different struggles and like how to like deal with certain things. So she inspires my content a lot in terms of how I engage with people. She's talked me down from some hate comments before, so I have to give her a shout out. Mia Asano, the electric violinist who I work with, we have talked a lot about my content creation schedule is a lot inspired by her. And she's one of the TikTokers who actually inspired me to start putting bagpipes to modern music, because she puts violin, electric violin, and acoustic violin to songs that don't have them in there already. And so she's another creative inspiration to me. So there are, I mean, so many people I could list, but there are a few.
Well, that's a good list at any rate, and there's always more to talk about. I think that something that I said to Megan when she was on the podcast in an earlier episode, which we were talking about before we started recording as well, is I feel like you've tapped into a lot of the same niche that certainly Megan has, the same audience that Lindsay Sterling, for instance, with like being fantasy, fairy tale, Celtic, medieval, like all that, you know, those things that, while they're all different, like tend to rub shoulders somehow. And it's a really cool thing to see, like, you work in that niche on the platform, like, and not exclusively to that, but how that also has helped you to collaborate with other creators, and that's also worked with just giving you even more opportunity. And as far as you know, I think we can kind of start to wrap things up here a bit, but we want to get to some really important stuff. So you, I believe, are wearing some merch now, or do you have merch available if people so desire? All right, well, then I'm just going to ask you, where can people find you, and where can they get your stuff?
Yeah, so I do have a CD that I don't think a lot of my newer people know about, because I released it last year. But here it is, Billow and Breeze. This is my CD. It is a smaller CD, 6 tracks. It was my EP and then 2 singles that I had as well. So it also has an original on there. And I'm also in the process of trying to get another one out. So those are available through Bandcamp. And then I have like stickers and pins that are also available through Bandcamp. And my merch is through Bonfire. So all of those, you can find them in like the Linktree part of my social media bios. And it has everything in there from, you know, where I find my costume pieces to where you can listen to me on streaming platforms and how you can connect with me and things like that. So the Linktree is the place to go. But yes, this is one of my shirts. It doesn't have my name on it. It's just, you had mentioned earlier, somebody had created fan art, and I turned it into a female bagpiper silhouette on a shirt because there are none of those in existence, and I needed it. And then I have my personal merch as well, which is also was fan art, and it is me holding my bagpipe, and it is very cute. So I have those.
Excellent. Well, for everyone who's stayed and listened, thank you so much for spending your time with us. We're going to have a bunch of these links in the description as well for your easy access. Allie, thank you so much for spending time with us today. It's just really cool that, like, I didn't realize we had known each other for 10 years, and so it's just really cool to see how this has continued to go well for you. I'm sure it's going to keep doing that, and I'm looking forward to listening to your album myself. So have a good rest of your day. Have a great weekend or whatever time people happen to be watching this. And thanks a lot. Have a good one, Allie.
You too, Peter.